Recently, Samsung's launched a few different J7s here in India. Well, we've already reviewed the J7 Max here on C4 Retech. Today, it's the turn of the J7 Pro to get the review treatment. So does this J7 Pro warrant your attention? Is it worth your hard-earned money? Well, let's find out in today's video. But before we do, if this is your first time here or in case all those J's have got you turned around confused, my name's Ash, you're watching C4 Retech, and welcome to our full review of Samsung's all-new Galaxy J7 Pro. Let's get started. Built and design it is. To the front, up top, we've got a 13 megapixel f1.9 shooter, the earpiece, sensors, a front-facing flash, and Samsung branding. Then we've got the display, and at the bottom, a physical home key that's flanked by capacitive keys that sadly still are not backlit. It's kind of a bummer given that this phone's priced at 21,000 rupees. Like with most of other J devices, the home key has a fingerprint scanner built in. This is an active scanner that can wake the device. While it doesn't feel as fast as other scanners in this segment, it does get the job done. It's all the more important here given the presence of Samsung Pay, which we will talk about, in a bit, on how it fits into the bigger picture. Anyway, Samsung's used a Super AMOLED display here, a 5.5-inch Super AMOLED panel to be precise. The resolution is par for the course at 1080p. This means the pixel density is a very respectable 400 pixels per inch. This display is quite sharp, and since it's Super AMOLED, we get deep inky blacks, excellent contrast, brilliant viewing angles, and it also gets quite bright. So I faced no issues using it outdoors under direct sunlight. Samsung has provided an auto brightness sensor here. That's wonderful news. And there is support for Samsung's always-on display technology as well. That's something I did find quite useful at night when I wanted to just glance at the time. In fact, this is one of the recurring themes with the J7 Pro. Samsung has crafted in some nifty features that stay out of your way for the most part, but come in really handy when the need arises. Another one such feature is the IP54 rating. The J7 Pro can take a little drizzle in its stride, and we love seeing Samsung pioneering ingress protection in this price segment. Now moving on, the back's made out of metal and we have Samsung branding, and on top a 13 megapixel camera with a wide f1.7 aperture and an LED flash. Above that, we've got nothing. The power key and the speaker are located to the right. The 3.5mm headphone jack, primary microphone, and a micro USB port reside at the bottom. To the left, you've got the volume keys and dedicated slots for 2 SIM cards and a micro SD card. Dedicated slot, good stuff. The J7 Pro, for the most part, feels like every other Samsung mid-ranger, but does have a few redeeming factors. The all-metal body makes it a tad more premium. The redesigned antenna lines give it a breath of fresh air that's much needed in this overcrowded Samsung mid-range line. The rounded edges help with the in-hand feel as well. The quality of the build itself is excellent. Overall, barring the omission of a backlight for the capacitive keys, Samsung seems to have done a good job here. Now, underneath the hood, the J7 Pro sports the same chip as the J7 2016, J7 NXT, and the J7 Prime, the 64-bit Exynos 7870 chip. Now, the big change, the one that gives it the Pro moniker, is the fact that this phone comes with 3 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of onboard storage. It is quite nice to see Samsung not cut corners with sensors, so I guess that makes it a Pro as well. Now, given the 21K asking price, that's something we'd expect, but then again, we're talking about Samsung, so kudos for not cutting corners with the sensors. With day-to-day usage, the J7 Pro performed decently. It runs on Android 7 Nougat with Samsung Experience 8.1 on top. Like I said in the unboxing, it's nothing new. We've seen it on way too many phones for me to get into it again here. In a nutshell, the interface looks clean, there's very little bloat. Nougat regulars like quick switch and split screen work well. The user experience is good for the most part. RAM management is not great, but it is decent with day-to-day usage. If you're a low to moderate user, you are not going to be experiencing any issues with this phone. Even when pushed with intense usage scenarios like gaming, the Mali T830 MP2 GPU inside held its own, managing to handle even some intense titles with relative ease. It is nice to see how much juice Samsung's been able to eke out of this year-old chip. Now with all this performance, the battery life should suck, right? Not really. The J7 Pro managed to last through a day on a single charge with moderate usage. My kind of moderate usage is a bit of streaming videos like 30 minutes to an hour a day, a lot of social media, a couple of hours of music over Bluetooth, push notifications for mail, a few hours of calls and so on. With this kind of usage, I ended almost every day of my week with the J7 Pro with about 30% charge left. The 3600 mAh battery inside did fare quite well. The audio via the side-firing speaker was quite loud. I faced no issues with cellular reception, call quality, or audio via the 3.5mm headphone jack. One of the most unique features that the J7 Pro brings with it is Samsung Pay. Samsung Pay means you don't need to carry your debit or credit cards with you at all. You can use the J7 Pro to pay anywhere where a credit or debit card is accepted, meaning almost anywhere and everywhere. I absolutely adored Samsung Pay in my time with the S8 and now the J7 Pro. This is probably one feature that's really got me excited after a long time. Anyway, let's now move on and talk about cameras. The interface is what we've come to expect from Samsung. Quick shutter response, depreciated Pro mode. The social share option that we first saw with the J7 Max is also present here. It lets you add filters, pin the location, and quickly share with your close contacts. Outdoors, under good lighting conditions, the 13-megapixel rear camera performs really well. Images look crisp, there's a lot of detail as you can see here. The color reproduction isn't up to the mark. Some oversaturation can be noticed at times. The images also are a little cooler than they should be. That said, the images are well exposed, the dynamic range is above average, even better when the HDR mode is turned on. Indoors, the quality doesn't take much of a hit. The images still remain quite sharp with good detail levels and decent colors. Under low light, the J7 Pro still manages to handle things well. That's thanks in large to that wide f1.7 aperture that manages to let in a lot of light. The color representation is actually better here. What I don't like about these images is the fact that the processing makes them a little too soft, causing loss of detail. There's a night mode that can fix this, but it increases the ISO levels and decreases the shutter speed, leading to more noise. You're gonna have to live with one of these choices. Anyway, the 13-megapixel f1.9 selfie camera captures some really nice selfies. They are well exposed, have fine colors, and exhibit decent dynamic range. There is a LED flash to the front, and it does get the job done quite well. The J7 Pro can also capture 1080p videos at 30 frames per second. There is no stabilization here, hence the jitters, but if you ignore that, the quality itself is pretty good. The colors are represented well, the dynamic range is as good as it is with still images. And now with that, we get to price. The J7 Pro, in case you didn't hear me mention it like 100 times in this video already, it is priced at 20,900 rupees. That's almost 21,000 rupees or $325 US for my international viewers. So at this price, should you pick a J7 Pro up? Well, let's break it down. Great build, excellent display, Samsung Pay, decent specs. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the J7 Pro per se, except maybe Samsung did handicap it themselves, like with the omission of backlighting for the keys or disabling haptic feedback despite the hardware support for it. You know, it won't work with capacitive keys or Samsung stock keyboard, but it will work with third-party keyboard apps like Gboard or SwiftKey. And on top of it, you do pay more for the Samsung brand name, the service, and everything else that it brings in tow. So the added price, the premium, and Samsung's own crippling of the J7 Pro is what I feel makes the J7 Pro uncompetitive when compared to Chinese offerings in this segment. If you can't live without a backlight for the capacitive keys or haptic feedback and don't care much for service and brand value, you should definitely look at these other offerings from Chinese brands. They do offer a much better bang for your buck. But if you don't care about backlight for the capacitive keys or haptic feedback, but do care about things like brand value and Samsung service, and most importantly Samsung Pay, then the J7 Pro is something you definitely should get. So that's my 2 cents on the J7 Pro. If you do know anyone else who's interested in the J7 Pro or Samsung's mid-rangers, do share this video with them. If you do want to pick up a J7 Pro, direct links in the description. So do you agree with what I've had to say in this video? Let me know in the comments below. If you hated this video, I'm pretty sure you know what to do. Go ahead, vote it down. Head on over to the comments, say something, I don't know, whatever you like. And but if you did actually like this video, go ahead, give it a big huge thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. If you've already subscribed, hit that bell icon to make sure you get notified each and every single time a new video goes live here on C4eTech. So that's it for now. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, this here is Ash from C4eTech, calling it like I see it. You guys have a great day. Bye bye now.